Richard Cottingham, the notorious torso killer, left a trail of terror and dismemberment across New York and New Jersey. His horrific crimes shocked a nation and baffled detectives. Join us as we delve into the twisted mind of this sadistic murderer, uncover the relentless investigation that brought him to justice, and explore the psychological depths of a man capable of unspeakable acts. Stay tuned for an unforgettable journey into the darkness of Richard Cottingham's psyche.
Nancy Schiava was a vibrant young woman born in the late 1940s. She grew up in a modest family in New York, known for her cheerful personality and ambition. Nancy's life was tragically cut short by Richard Cottingham, a man who would become infamous as the torso killer. On December 2, 1979, Nancy Schiava was last seen leaving a bar in Manhattan. She never made it home that night. Her body was discovered mutilated in a seedy hotel room. The discovery shocked the city and marked the beginning of a horrific series of murders. Cottingham had lured Nancy to the Travel Inn Motor Hotel, where he brutally tortured and killed her. The scene was gruesome, with Nancy's body partially dismembered. Cottingham's signature brutality was evident, and the case quickly drew media attention. Nancy's early life, full of promise, contrasted starkly with her tragic end. Her family and friends were devastated, struggling to comprehend the senseless violence. Nancy's murder was one of the earliest linked to Cottingham, setting off alarm bells for the police. The brutality of the crime suggested a perpetrator with a deeply disturbed psyche. The police were baffled by the savagery, which seemed to lack any clear motive beyond pure sadism. Nancy's case was initially treated as an isolated incident, but patterns soon emerged. Nancy's murder was not the first time Cottingham had killed. He had been active for years, targeting vulnerable women. His method of operation involved luring victims to secluded locations, where he would torture and kill them with unimaginable cruelty. Despite the efforts of law enforcement, Cottingham remained elusive. Nancy's murder, like many others, went unsolved for years. The fear of the unknown killer haunted New York, with women afraid to walk alone at night. The city was gripped by fear and uncertainty. Nancy's tragic end was a stark reminder of the dangers lurking in the city. Her story is a testament to the innocent lives lost to senseless violence. The legacy of her life, and untimely death, is a sobering reminder of the fragility of life and the pervasive evil that can exist in society. Richard Cottingham, born in 1946 in the Bronx, grew up in a seemingly normal family. He had a stable job as a computer operator and led a double life that masked his dark, violent tendencies. Cottingham's criminal activities began in the late 1960s, escalating over the next decade. Cottingham's method of operation was consistent and brutal. He would frequent bars and seedy motels, targeting women who appeared vulnerable. Once he had lured them, he would subject them to hours of torture before finally killing them. His preferred method of killing was strangulation, often followed by mutilation. One of his early victims was Marianne Carr, a 26-year-old nurse whose body was found in 1967. She had been strangled and her body mutilated. This marked the beginning of Cottingham's violent spree, though it would be years before he was connected to her murder. Another victim, Dita Goodarzi, was discovered in December 1979. Her body was found in a Times Square motel, partially dismembered and burned. The brutality of the crime was shocking, even to seasoned detectives. It was clear that the killer was escalating, growing bolder and more violent. Cottingham's motivation seemed to stem from a deep-seated need for control and domination. He derived pleasure from inflicting pain and terror on his victims. The mutilation of their bodies was not only a means of concealing his crimes but also a way to further degrade his victims. In June 1980, Valerie Street and Jean Rayner fell victim to Cottingham's sadistic urges. Their bodies were discovered in a Manhattan hotel, both showing signs of extensive torture. The city was on edge, with the media dubbing the unknown killer the torso killer due to his penchant for dismemberment. Cottingham's methods were methodical and calculated. He would often gag his victims to prevent them from screaming, and his use of fire to destroy evidence suggested a cold, calculating mind. The pattern of his crimes indicated a compulsive nature, driven by a need to exert control and induce fear. As the body count rose, law enforcement intensified their efforts to catch the elusive killer. However, Cottingham was adept at covering his tracks. His knowledge of forensics and his ability to evade detection allowed him to continue his murderous spree for over a decade. Cottingham's victims came from diverse backgrounds, but they all shared one tragic fate. His ability to blend into society while committing heinous acts highlighted the duality of his nature. To his coworkers and neighbors, he was a quiet, unassuming man. To his victims, he was a monster. The psychological profile of Cottingham revealed a man with deep-seated issues. His need to control and dominate was likely rooted in a troubled past, though the specifics remain unclear. What is evident is that he took perverse pleasure in the suffering of others, making him one of the most dangerous predators of his time. The investigation into Richard Cottingham's crimes was a long and arduous journey. Detectives worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle of the torso killer, but Cottingham's careful planning and meticulous execution made it difficult to gather concrete evidence. The turning point came in 1980 when he made a critical mistake. On May 22, 1980, Cottingham was arrested at a Quality Inn motel in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. A maid heard screams coming from his room and called the police. When officers arrived, they found Cottingham with an unconscious woman, handcuffed and gagged. This was a significant breakthrough, providing the first direct evidence of his crimes. Detective John Bonney, one of the lead investigators, recalled the chilling scene. The woman, who survived the ordeal, provided crucial testimony that helped build the case against Cottingham. She described the torture she endured, painting a vivid picture of Cottingham's sadistic tendencies. Following his arrest, investigators searched Cottingham's home and found a trove of incriminating evidence. Souvenirs from his victims, including personal items and photographs, linked him to multiple unsolved murders. The discovery was a breakthrough, but the road to justice was still long and fraught with challenges. The trial of Richard Cottingham began in 1981. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Richard Clayman, presented a compelling case. They detailed Cottingham's brutal methods, his pattern of targeting vulnerable women, and the sheer savagery of his crimes. The evidence was overwhelming, and the testimony from survivors and forensic experts painted a damning picture. Cottingham's defense attempted to argue that he was not responsible for his actions due to mental illness. However, the prosecution countered with evidence of his calculated behavior and attempts to evade capture. The jury was unconvinced by the defense's arguments, and after a lengthy trial, Cottingham was found guilty on multiple counts of murder. On July 9, 1984, Richard Cottingham was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought a sense of relief to the victims' families and the community, but the scars left by his crimes would take much longer to heal. The trial was a landmark moment in the fight against serial killers, highlighting the importance of meticulous investigation and collaboration between law enforcement agencies. The aftermath of the trial saw renewed efforts to solve other cold cases that could be linked to Cottingham. Detectives reviewed old files, re-examined evidence, and followed up on leads that had gone cold. The case also prompted changes in how law enforcement handled missing persons and suspected serial killer investigations, leading to improved protocols and resources. The media coverage of Cottingham's trial brought national attention to the horrors of his crimes. Documentaries, books, and articles explored the case in detail, ensuring that the stories of his victims were not forgotten. The public's fascination with the case underscored the enduring impact of Cottingham's reign of terror. Despite his incarceration, Cottingham's name remained synonymous with fear and brutality. His case became a reference point for understanding the minds of serial killers and the methods used to capture them. The lessons learned from his investigation have continued to influence law enforcement strategies in the decades since. Understanding Richard Cottingham, the torso killer, requires delving into the complexities of his psyche. Cottingham exhibited traits consistent with antisocial personality disorder, characterized by a pervasive disregard for others' rights, deceitfulness, impulsivity, and a lack of remorse. His criminal behavior, beginning in his teenage years, escalated to extreme violence and sadism, highlighting his deep-seated need for control and dominance. One striking aspect of Cottingham's psyche was his methodical approach to murder. He meticulously planned his attacks, targeting vulnerable victims and ensuring minimal evidence was left behind. This level of premeditation indicates high psychopathy, where individuals lack empathy and are egotistical, cold, and calculating. Cottingham's interactions with his victims were marked by extreme cruelty. He derived pleasure from inflicting pain and terror, often torturing his victims for hours before killing them. This sadistic behavior suggests a severe psychological disorder, where others' suffering is a source of gratification. The duality of his life further complicates his psychological profile. By day, Cottingham was an ordinary computer operator, blending into society without raising suspicion. By night, he transformed into a brutal killer. Cottingham's ability to lead a double life is indicative of his manipulative nature. Psychopaths often mask their true selves with a facade of normalcy, making them difficult to detect. This ability to deceive and manipulate allowed Cottingham to evade capture for years, even as the body count grew. Another aspect of Cottingham's psychological makeup is his need for power and control. His crimes were not just about killing, they were about dominating and degrading his victims. The dismemberment and mutilation of bodies were not merely ways to dispose of evidence but acts of ultimate control and humiliation. This need for power and control is a hallmark of many serial killers, reflecting deep-rooted insecurities and a desire to assert dominance over others. The psychological profile of Cottingham also reveals a profound lack of empathy. His ability to inflict such extreme violence without remorse indicates an emotional void. This detachment from the suffering of others is a key characteristic of psychopathy. It allowed Cottingham to commit his crimes with a chilling sense of detachment, viewing his victims not as human beings but as objects to be used and discarded. Cottingham's case also highlights the role of early environmental factors in shaping his psyche. While specific details of his childhood are not widely known, it is likely that his early experiences contributed to his development into a violent predator. Research on serial killers often points to a combination of genetic predisposition and environmental factors, such as childhood trauma or abuse, in creating individuals capable of such extreme acts of violence. Understanding Cottingham's psychological makeup provides insight into the mind of a serial killer. It underscores the importance of early intervention and mental health support in preventing the development of such dangerous individuals. While Cottingham's crimes are a testament to his deeply disturbed mind, they also serve as a reminder of the need for vigilance and comprehensive mental health care in society. In conclusion, Richard Cottingham's psychological profile is marked by antisocial traits, extreme cruelty, a need for control, and a profound lack of empathy. His ability to lead a double life and his methodical approach to murder made him one of the most dangerous predators of his time. Understanding his psyche not only helps explain his horrific actions but also highlights the broader implications for preventing such crimes in the future.